The Spyderco Para Free Lightweight and the Benchmade Bugout are two fantastic summer knives for the summer months because they are lightweight and you can carry them easily. Starting off with the Benchmade Bugout, probably the most successful Benchmade knife of all time, maybe. The Benchmade 940 is up there, but I think this has the potential to surpass it if it hasn't already in terms of sales. I think a lot of people own a Bugout now. And for good reasons. The Bugout is a very lightweight knife for a long cutting edge. So it's actually bigger than you would think it is. Let's see how the size really is. This is a Spyderco PM2, a mid-range knife. What do I mean by a mid-range knife? There are smaller knives, there are bigger knives, and this is like a 3.5 inch size, 8.5 centimeters of blade length, right in between. A mid-range knife, which is my least favorite size of knife, to be honest. Because I either like carry small knives with a big knife or just a big knife on its own. So this size in between I don't really like, but the Bugout is special because it has the same cutting edge length, but a lot less weight, a lot less to carry. So it still carries like a small knife, but it actually has a decent length of cutting edge. So yeah, pretty good. It's also very slim, lightweight, thin blade stock, only like 2.8 millimeters of S30V, thinly ground, thinly ground, thin, lightweight. That's the best way to describe the Bugout. By the way, why is it called the Bugout? This would be the least, my last pick for a Bugout knife. Because if you are bugging out, you want something easy to resharpen in the field, you want it very reliable, very sturdy, you want a fixed blade basically. This is a folder with a thin blade and a brittle steel. Not my first choice for a Bugout knife, but I think it's a catchy name, so yeah. Cool design, simplistic design, very straightforward, very linear. You basically have two parallel lines running, and then you have this cutout for the handle, and it's secure towards the front. You can't slip off the back. Very simplistic handle, very simplistic blade, beautiful blade. Benchmade makes beautiful knives. You really have to admit that Benchmade have some very good designers. The only thing I don't understand is that swedge on the top. Can you see that the swedge doesn't run all the way to the tip? Why would you do that, Benchmade? That eliminates the whole purpose of a swedge, is having a pointier point that's also supported by an additional line. So you're making a point stronger and pointier at the same time. But you kind of missed the point here, I don't know. Yeah, an odd decision, but other than that, the knife is great. I think even with that misground swedge, you still have a great knife. It doesn't hurt the knife too much. Deep carry pocket clip. Is the weight too light? Did I say the weight already? 53 grams, 1.8 ounces, super lightweight. I mean super lightweight. Is the weight too lightweight because sometimes, or actually all the times, the blade tends to lean forward, so the knife dips forward as you use it because the blade is the heaviest part on this. Kind of annoying, which is also the reason why I have this backspacer installed in here, even though it doesn't make it much heavier, but I think the weight distribution is a little bit better. Just a little bit, at least I think it is. Some of you are going to ask me anyway, so I'm gonna tell you right away. This is a rock scale design backspacer, titanium backspacers. There are so many aftermarket parts for Benchmade Bugouts on the market. It's crazy. I used to have brass scales from Titanium. I didn't really like them because they were way too heavy, and I mean the knife was so lightweight, but the Bugout is about being lightweight. It's not about being a heavier knife. And they made the action really ugly. These original scales, they're so perfect. The in general, the quality of Benchmade has raised quite a bit. So these are made so well that the tolerances are just so good with the original scales. So yeah, I switched back to the normal ones and added the backspacer for the weight distribution, and now it's fine, I think. Yeah, the Bugout might also be too lightweight because this is the kind of knife you have to check if it's still there. Sometimes you don't know if it is still in your pocket because you don't feel it at all, which makes it a great knife for gym shorts or swimming shorts, Bermuda shorts. you know, all the summer things you wear, and yeah, great knife for that. The Spyderco Para 3 Lightweight. I did choose the lightweight because it's more comparable to the Bugout, I think, with the scales and everything, and also with the weight. This only has 68 grams, which is 2.3 ounces. The Bugout is a lightweight knife. This is also a very light knife. This is light enough for everybody. This is not gonna drag you down. If you're an adult, you won't feel this too much in your pocket. It's not heavy at all. So yeah, great weight for the summer. Size is a little bit smaller than a Bugout. They almost are the same length, but the Para 3 always feels more like a small knife. This feels more like a PM tool, like an in-between knife, and this feels like a small knife. So I actually do like the size a little bit better than the Bugout, like I discussed before. I either go small or big. I don't go in between when it comes to knives. And yeah, typical bidirectional texturing, as we know from Spyderco plastic scales. In comparison to the flat G10 scales, these are more contoured, but in terms of comfort, we talk about that a little bit later. Because I wouldn't say this knife is much more comfortable than the G10. We talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, deep carry pocket clip, wire clip. The wire clip, as you know, can be pushed to one side or the other, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. Other than that, I really like this clip because it works well and looks very, very non-knifely. All the parts on this here are blackened, as they do this usually now, and DLC coating on the CTS BD1N, which is probably the biggest selling point of this knife, is the steel CTS BD1N. What's CTS BD1N? CTS BD1N is basically CTS BD1. It just has more nitrogen added to it. That's why the N in the name. And what nitrogen really does, it increases the hardness you can heat treat these knives at. So basically, if you have higher hardness, you also can achieve more edge retention because the steel is harder and doesn't deform as easily, right? So with CTS BD1N, you have a steel that goes towards edge retention more than CTS BD1. And the good thing about nitrogen is also that it helps the chromium in the steel. The chromium obviously is for corrosion resistance, and nitrogen supports the corrosion resistance, especially against salts, which is great because yeah, if you do sweat a lot during summer, you have salts in your sweat. So this is more corrosion resistant against salts. And if you're around ocean water as well, this might be interesting. So Spyderco, they do a lot of, they have a lot of effort put into the salts series steels. So the steels that are really corrosion resistant against all kinds of waters, all kinds of salts. It's pretty cool, and this goes in that same direction. It's a very corrosion resistant steel. How is it in edge retention? I think the edge retention is good. It's I've done a lot of testings with the CTS BD1N that I will show to you guys. I don't know when, somewhere in the future. These edge retention or steel testing videos are quite a lot of effort, so it takes a while to make. And yeah, but I'm very satisfied with CTS BD1N. It has good edge retention. It's not really high in edge retention. It's not a PM steel. It's still a conventional steel, basically. But it restrops really easy, and that razor sharpness is super easy to bring back on CTS BD1N as well, which you don't have with S40B. S40B is a high edge retention steel, but once you lose that razor sharpness edge, you kind of still have a sharp knife, but you are not getting it back that easily. With CTS BD1N, it's kind of the opposite. You lose that edge quicker, but you can also resharpen it quicker. And yeah, we talked about the corrosion resistance. This has a really high corrosion resistance, but it's also tough. S40B, it will chip before it will blunt, so you will get some nicks in the blade if you cut certain materials, like zip ties or wood, or if you do any of the twist cutting motions. This is really, everything that's really hard on the edge brings a knife to chip. And S40B tends to chip before it dulls down. And with CTS BD1 it's the opposite. It dulls down before it chips. So yeah, pick your poison, I guess. This is a more tougher steel, but it's not as high in edge retention as S40B is. So yeah, I do really like CTS BD1N because in today's market, a lot of people look for, quote, the best steel which has the highest edge retention, right? They look which steel has the best edge retention, but I think a steel needs to be balanced. It needs to be tough. It needs to have edge retention. It needs to be corrosion resistant if that's important to you in this situation, because it's not important all the time. So there are some really good tool steels out there as well. So we don't want to forget about that. But yeah, I like the CTS BD1N. It's a balanced steel. I think Spyderco has put a lot of effort into making new steels that are very suitable. It's basically a preference thing when it comes to the steel of both of these. My personal preference, CTS BD1 is my choice of steel. In case of S40B, CTS BD1N, I think it's a more well-rounded steel. It just has a little bit of everything, and it's good at doing everything, and you can put more pressure on that edge. Especially with the blade, you see that when I rest my thumb up here, I generate a lot of pressure towards the tip, so I can do the more aggressive cutting with this. It's great. So a tougher steel works great for that. Now, ergonomics during use. Oh, I didn't mention the Para-Free has like a 4mm blade stock, so it's significantly thicker. You can see that here. So 2.8 millimeters against 4 millimeters. There is quite the difference. Like all Spyderco triangle shapes, they taper towards the front quite significantly, but still this is a much thicker blade and you feel that. Yes, you get more strength, but in a knife like this, strength is not really what it's about. So the blade could be thinner. With this one you get a much slicier blade shape, so this knife cuts much better through all kinds of material. Thinner geometries just cut better. That's the nature of the game. In terms of ergonomics, I would also give it to the Bugout, because the Bugout feels more natural in a hammer grip, as you can see. So with this simplistic design, a hammer grip feels really natural. So every time you push cut, like you cutting a stick or something, this feels very, very good in hand. Even though it's so thin, you only get a slight hot spot here on the top, but other than that, I think it's a really great push cutter. And as you can see in my footage that I blend in right now, it does fairly well for such a thin and almost flimsy constructed knife. The Para-Free, however, you can see this in the footage. I start cutting and then I stop because it hurts so much. All compression locks basically have the same issue, and that is this point right here. I really do like compression locks in theory. I think it's a great thing. It's like a line lock that locks up between the stop pin and the blade, so it's much more secure than any line lock would ever be. And it's also very fidget friendly. It's very simple. There is not a lot that can go wrong. Like on a axis lock, you have two omega springs that can potentially break in the future, and this has already happened to me. I have already broken omega springs on a Benchmade. They are very easy to replace, but still, you don't want this to happen. Hasn't happened in recent years though, because I think Benchmades, they have really, I don't know what they have done differently, but they really upgraded the quality and or increased the quality, I should say. And these compression locks are much simpler locking systems and very strong at the same time, so there's less that can go wrong. They're very fidget friendly, but this hotspot right here is just a pain in the ass. If you're doing the harder cutting, if you cut wood, any kind of harder material that gives you more resistance, this is just a pain in the ass. And it's the same issue with the PM2. They all have the same hotspot in the same spot, which is why I don't understand it, why Spyderco goes to the military and makes it a compression lock now. I think this was the best part about the military, that it wasn't a compression lock. But yeah, that's just me. That's just personal preference, I guess. If you don't use the knife too hard, if you don't push down overly hard on this, it's still fine. Still works well. In my opinion, the biggest selling point about the Para-Free is the CTS BD1N. I think it's just a cool steel. Price-wise, I think these are around 125 euros now. I'm not sure how much it cost when I picked it up. It was probably much less because all knives have increased crazily in prices now. And the Bugout is almost at 200 euros, I want to say now. So yeah, this is the CF Elite version, by the way. I don't really care if I have the CF Elite or the plastic scales. They don't feel that much different to me personally. I just bought this back in the days because this was on sale. And yeah, I just got the cheapest version back then that I could. And this was in this case. Also the coolest one because it's blacked out. And yeah, I like blacked out knives, as you can see. I think they also look pretty cool. And yeah, so yeah, the Para-Free has some hotspot issues, I think. It has a really cool steel in the lightweight version, and they make it in a bunch of different versions. I think the Spy 27 is also in the regular lineup. Would you upgrade to Spy 27, or would you pay the extra price to Spy 27 if you can get CTS BD1N? Absolutely not. CTS BD1N is a fine steel, and Spy 27, from what I hear, doesn't do anything really that much better. So no, go with CTS BD1N, I would say. Para-Free G10 or Para-Free lightweight, that's probably a discussion for a different video. And yeah, and like I said, Benchmade, northern plastic scale or CF Elite, doesn't matter, you know, pick any one. You can pick the one you like, basically. It really doesn't make that much difference, except in colors. Yeah. We talked about the steel. I prefer CTS BD1N to S40B, but that's always different. Some people like the higher edge retention, and some people like the more toughness. You know, pick your poison, basically, whatever you like more. Both of these are fine with corrosion resistance. S40B is still a very highly corrosion resistant steel. CTS BD1N is just a little bit better against salt, but that's it. Nothing too crazy about that. Weight, both of these are very lightweight. This is just a little bit lighter. This gives you a little bit more cutting edge. So if you want a small knife, this probably feels better to you. If you want more of an in-between size knife, this probably feels better in terms of size. If you meet me in a bar and you talk to me about whether I like Spyderco or Benchmade more, I could talk to you all night that I like Spyderco more. I'm a Spyderco fanboy, okay? I have always been a Spyderco person before I have been a Benchmade person. Now, that being said, even though I like Spyderco more than I like Benchmade, in terms of these two knives, my personal preference is the Benchmade Bugout. The reason for that is I think the Bugout is unique, that it gives you a lot of cutting edge for a little weight, and the Para-Free is not that unique to me. It would be a great knife if it didn't have that hotspot, but hard cutting is really uncomfortable with this knife, with all compression locks, to be honest. So if you would have asked me 1 year ago, I would have said Para-Free. But yeah, now a little bit of time has passed and I have more time with both of these knives, I would actually say the Benchmade Bugout is the more comfortable, more well-rounded knife. Yeah, this is better for the push cutting, doing things like this. You can see this knife comes at sort of like an angle. The blade sits at an angle. It's not a straight knife. See this? All right. It's an angle. So this is great for getting the tip down and cutting with the tip. All the draw cutting is great for the Para-Free. So opening boxes basically all day long. Great shape for that, and very fidgety. Both of these knives are extremely fidgety. Quality, the Benchmade is just a little bit better made, but it's also more expensive. And this is not bad at all. This is just a little bit uncentered. That's it. Other than that, tolerances are good. You can just feel that the Benchmade is just a little bit better made though. Yeah, both of these, in the end, pick the one you like more. Both of these are great summer knives carry. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching, people. And maybe we see each other in another video. Goodbye.